All right, this is the third video in this Photoshop series. We're going to talk about a really important menu in Photoshop, which is the Layers tab. I cannot stress this enough. This is one of the fundamental, most important things that we will use in Photoshop because everything we put into this program ends up in this Layers tab. So I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to kind of show you what I'm referencing here, and we'll kind of get to it. But just again, remember, this is a really important spot for this to be at. So the Layers tab is over here, okay? And again, this is one that is going to kind of hold all of the images, all of the things that we're going to be doing. It all exists over here, okay? And one thing I want to point out is that the Layers tab is modular. I kind of talked about this with the toolbar earlier. I can move things around. And for this exercise, I'm going to move the Layers tab just so you can see it a little better. So you can see I can click and drag just like if it was like a Google Chrome tab or Edge tab or whatever. I can move things around. And then this gives me this blue line. And what that blue line indicates is that now it's locked in. So if I let go, okay, you can see that now is over here. I can make it bigger, I can make it smaller. And now you can see I have crazy layers on here because I had to set up this document. But I'm gonna move that and we'll talk through some things. So how you can look at this as I look through, these are all separate layers. They are the images that I have put on the left-hand side. You can see here's the little raccoon, here's the brown cardboard, um, that's a nothing layer. Smiley face, purple thing, smiley face, and I added this background to it. Okay, so again, when you look at this, just remember these are all your images or your text or whatever we end up adding into here, all lives over there. So I'm going to go through things. I'm going to show you how they work. I'll kind of put down my little explanation and you can take notes along the way. So first things first, I'm going to zoom in here. This top part, which when I'm looking over here is this area, okay? You'll see that it says normal and opacity, okay? What these things do is they allow me to click and drag, okay? So I have all these different options, okay? Nothing is happening right now because I haven't changed anything, but when I click on normal, it gives me all these options. Opacity has this little slider, okay? What these things do, I'm going to talk about opacity first. Opacity is like the amount of see-throughness. Okay, what I mean by that, amount, whoops, should probably have that on the right thing. Yep, there we go. Amount of see-throughness. Okay, essentially what this does, the more opacity, 100%, you can't see through, 0%, you can't see. Think about it as if you have a dimmer in your house somewhere for a light, full light on, you see all of the light. If you dim it down really low, you see a little bit of the light. If you turn it all the way off, you see no light. Okay, so this one's really kind of a useful thing to be able to use. I'm going to stay here, maybe not. So how this works, if I come over here, I click my move tool. Okay, I'm going to click on my little brown cardboard thing. So if I go over to my opacity, click, and I drag, and you're going to see what happens. Okay, so now I can see through this, right? What's kind of cool too is if I copy and paste this, since it is an opacity, meaning it kind of builds on top of one another. If you've ever done watercolor paint operates with a high degree of opacity as well. The technical term is translucency. You don't need to write that down, but again, that is kind of what this does. So you can see now as I stack this on top, right, if I were to copy and paste this a couple times, and keep moving it over, gradually, we're going to get almost back to full translucency. If I take those off, you can see that it's see-through again. Again, if I come here and I make it 0%, you see nothing. If I make it, I don't know, 1%, still can't see anything. If I make it 10%, you can see a little bit. If I make it 100, you can see the whole thing. Okay, so again, that's a super useful thing to be able to take things away, to make things look like they are overlapping. This yellow smiley face actually has some built-in opacity. All that means is the pixels that are here are already kind of see-through. Um, that's not something I did. It's something that the image that I got already had in. So you can kind of see through it there if there's something underneath. So again, that's the amount of see-throughness for any of your images or text can go through there. This next one is called blend mode. Blend mode. Okay. What this one does is changes the way image on top of another image looks, blends with its surroundings. I think I spelled surroundings right. Surroundings. Okay, so I should make that smaller. Try that 2.5. Okay, and I'll show you what this looks like. And some of them work specifically really well. Some of them are more hit and miss. But if I come up to where it says normal, again, I'll use my little zoom in feature here. If I come up to where it says normal here, okay, and I click on that, you'll see it gives me these options. Now I want you to pay attention to the brown cardboard, okay? So as I click on these, sometimes they don't do anything. If I hit darken, it does something. If I hit multiply, it does something. So it operates somewhat similarly to the opacity, but I haven't actually changed any of the opacity. I just change how that image, for example, if I take this background off, that's not a good example. It will change the way that things operate. Again, as I go through this, you'll see some of them create really cool effects. Some of them, that one's kind of sweet. Kind of looks like that cardboard is part of the leaf. As I go through, again, some of them are super useful. Some of them are not useful. But again, that's how that changes it. Now, what's kind of cool too is if I copy this and then I change a different one over the top, okay, they all kind of start to operate together. Again, copy paste. Okay, and you can see how that starts to create this kind of cool effect. Now, is this like weird inverting of colors probably necessary? Probably not. But when we get into using overlays and things, which is like one of my favorite things in Photoshop, and I can show you what that looks like here in a second. This is one of my favorite things to do with Photoshop because it turns out really cool. Let's see. I don't even know what some of these are. Let's try this. I'm gonna bring this vintage paper over. Okay, and so if I resize this and I go to normal, I drop that over the top, you can see how that starts to create more and more effects. One of my favorite ones to use is like crumpled paper. I think they're really cool. So let's use one of these. Drag that over, boom. So you can see how as I start to like overlay these and kind of stack them, I get a very more complex image as I go, right? So again, it creates a more interesting visual. Again, what I'm making right now isn't probably super interesting because it's just random, but it's one of those things that once we start to learn how to use these, they really become a powerful tool for us to use. So that one's pretty sweet. I love using those all the time. It's super useful for what we're trying to accomplish in this class. Okay, this next one, this one's just the layer name. Oop. So with this, okay, it's used to rename layers and keep track of what layer is what. Okay, you can see that on this left-hand side or this right-hand side over here, I have all these layers that are named. That's helpful for me to keep track of because the alternative sometimes is that they're just say layer 1, layer 2, layer 3, layer 4, layer 5, so on and so forth. And it's kind of hard to tell which one's which. So I went through and I named these. I didn't name vintage or paper overlay. That's just what the file was already named. So if you name a file something specific and you bring it in, it can auto update, but most of the time you're going to have to change it if I copy and paste something in. And we'll talk about copying and pasting in from Google and things like that. But it's super easy to rename these. All I have to do is double click on the text. And this one's kind of a weird thing to be able to say, like, you don't want to double click on the little image here. You want to double click on the text. So I can change name to whatever I want. Okay. And again, that's super useful. It's able for me then to keep track if I wanted to call this like smiley 1, and I don't know what my other one is, smiley 2 or smiley small, whatever. Now I know which ones are which. Okay, so to change name, double click, oops, on the letters and type new. Okay, so this next one, oops, this next one here, okay, is the lock feature. Okay, lock feature. Okay, what this does is prevents image, layer, or text from being edited. Okay, why this is useful? Sometimes you're going to run into issues where I want to click something like this overlay over here, for example. I want to try to click uh, the brown cardboard underneath it, okay, but I can't because this overlay is on top. So what's kind of useful is I can come down to where it shows the lock icon. I'll show you that here in 1 second. Okay, if I come up to this layer and I hit this little lock icon right here, okay, what that's going to do is now I can't edit it. Okay, so now when I try to move something, oops, it's going to say you can't move it because it's locked. Okay, and again, we use this quite a bit on like backgrounds and stuff, things that we don't want to have messed with, things that I don't want to be deleted on accident. That's a super useful one. If you ever see it, you can take it off by going up to the top where this little lock is, or if I come and click on the right down here, if I click on where that lock icon is, that will make it go away as well. So again, most of the time what you're going to see for the first couple projects is that lock icon is just on the background, okay? For the most part, we're not going to manually put in a lock icon unless I specifically tell you to. Sometimes I might come over and help you with something and I might just lock it for you. Sometimes that's helpful. So again, it prevents it from being edited most of the time. The background is locked when you start a new project. Okay, I'll also give you tons of different files and things throughout this process. So I will make Photoshop documents for you, and sometimes I lock things specifically. Going back to the thing about naming stuff, sometimes I'm like, I'm gonna name this "Do Not Delete" or something like that. And again, the reason that I do that is because sometimes I make a file that has something, and I'm like, seriously, don't delete this. If you delete it, what's going to happen is you're going to run into an issue. The project won't work. Maybe it's an effect. Maybe it's an overlay. Whatever it is, if I ever give you a Photoshop file and it says, there's a layer that says, do not touch, do not open, do not delete. Don't delete it. Don't open it. Don't do those things. It's not a secret. It's just like, how I'm able to make these files is contingent, or it's dependent on me making sure that those layers work. So again, if you ever get one of those, just okay, let's see here. All right, so this next one's a super useful one for you to know. I know I say that for all of these, but again, I wouldn't be teaching it if I don't think it's useful. So this next one's kind of a funny one. I think there's technically a let's see, a technical term for it. Visibility. I like just to call it the eyeball. And so that's what I refer to it as. So this is the eyeball icon, or just eyeball. Toggles, changes, visibility. If the eyeball is open, you can see it. If it's closed, you can't. So what that looks like, I'll show you here. Okay, so let's say I wanted to toggle the eyeball on this text here. Okay, click the eyeball. You see now that eyeball is closed, quote unquote. Okay, so see how that looks, right? It's not on there. Now if I turn it on again, you can then see now it's on, so I can see it on the image. So this one's super useful, especially like when you're trying to figure out what layer is what or what you need to accomplish. You can come through and it doesn't delete anything, which is nice, but you can kind of turn it on and off as you need it. Now, one thing that I haven't talked about on this, and I'll kind of refer back to it over here, I guess. Maybe I can make a new layer. Um, but with these layers tab over here, one thing that's super important is knowing that the position matters. And what I mean by that is, for example, the smiley face is at the top. Okay, if I were to click and drag this down, you can see now it's going below. Okay, and to better show that, I've put that behind. Okay, and now it's hiding behind this brown piece of paper. Now if I move that down, see it pops up in front. So think about this like I have a bunch of pieces of paper, stack, 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 stack. I can't see the bottom piece of paper if the top piece of paper is covering the whole thing, right? In order to see that bottom piece of paper, I'd have to move that top paper underneath, right? And that's kind of what this does. And that's why the layers kind of has this little icon where I can click and drag and move those things around as I need it. So again, use that as necessary. Again, it's, I think, a useful tool for you to know how to use. So again, that wasn't really a note because there's not a note for it, but again, just I think helpful to know. Okay, this next one is the new layer tab. New layer tab or button. Clicking this allows for making a new layer. Okay, often I call it a box with a, oops, a plus sign. So if I ever say that, go click the box with the plus sign. That's what I'm talking about. It's down here at the bottom part of this layer. Okay, you'll see it looks like this. Okay, again, what that does is make a brand new layer. It's going to say layer 1 or whatever layer it is. I'll show you here in a sec what that looks like. So when I click, notice I'm on this text layer. If I click, now I have this new layer that says layer 15. Okay, if I were to do that again, okay, it would do the same thing. So again, I tap on that, tap on that, tap on that, and that's how that kind of functions. Okay, so if I need to delete a layer, I just hit delete, or I can hit the little garbage can. We'll talk about that here next. Like I just said, this is the trash can. This manually deletes a layer or text or image. Okay, you can also use the delete key. Okay, I probably use the delete key more unless there's something specific that I'm having a hard time deleting. I don't have a good example for that right now, but if I delete something intentionally, sometimes I'll come in, I'll do that. I'll hit the little trash icon um, down here at the bottom. It'll say this, it'll say, you want to delete it? Yes. Versus if I hit delete, it doesn't give me that. So the nice thing about it is um, tapping the trash can gives you are you sure message. And again, that's, I think, helpful. I have deleted things multiple times that I don't intend to or wasn't meaning to. I can always use Control Z, of course. That's one of those things that, again, is super helpful all the time. So using Control Z, being able to undo something or redo something if I ended up deleting something that I wasn't supposed to. It'll happen more often than you think. I do it all the time. But so using that trash can at least gives you that option, like, whoa, 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 wait, are you sure? And then you can say yes or you can say no. So that's super useful. All right, this next one is pointing to this little folder icon. This is group, or I guess new group icon. This puts all layers you select into a new group or folder. Okay, the way that this works is, let's say I take all these text things that I have already made, okay, and I want to select multiple of them. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on one and I'm going to hold the shift key. Okay, shift, I got to really enunciate. If I hold shift and click the one way down here at the bottom, you'll see now these are all lit up. Okay, what that's telling Photoshop is that, hey, I want to do something with all these layers and I have clicked all of them so that I, know which ones I want. Okay, and now if I come down to the little folder icon here, and if I click that, what's going to happen is it's going to put this into a new group. Okay, you'll see it says group 5. Okay, why we use this, it's super easy to be able to kind of control where you're putting things. You're going to find that as we get into Photoshop, we're going to end up doing tons of things with tons of layers, and you're going to get confused. I get confused all the time. So good layer management by using these groups in the folders is kind of essential. You can name this just like you would name a layer. So if I come back on Zoom, if I double click and say text layers, okay, this one is background images. Okay, and I can then click the whole thing. So this background image is that the little worksheet. And again, super useful. Click and hold shift to select multiple layers. So yeah, we'll use that one from time to time. It is a super good thing to be able to keep track of all your stuff because, again, like I said, you will end up getting to a point where, again, I can even show you on my layers here. I have tons of groups. You can see that. And as I scroll through, you can see it gets overwhelming. This isn't even like a super, super busy um, file by any means, but it can just look nicer. And if you're like a type A person and you like to have things neat and organized, groups are going to be your best friend. You just want to remember that like what you put in a group matters. So don't put something in a group that you didn't intend to put in there. Because sometimes it's frustrating. Like, why does that not go away when I click on something? For example, like if I put this text layer in this background one and I'm like, boom, I'm like, wait, why does that not go away? Okay. The reason is it's in a different layer. It's in a different group. And so I just have to pay attention to that because it can be frustrating from time to time. All right, this last one, we're not going to use this one for a while, but I think it's a cool one to talk about, so I'm going to. This is the mask. What did I call this? The layer mask. Okay. Mr. Johnson often I can't spell. Often calls this the uh, rectangle with the circle. Okay, and why I reference that is because it kind of looks like that. It also kind of looks like the Japanese flag or like a camera icon. If you think about an old school camera, right, with a lens on it, kind of looks like that. But what that does is it creates a mask. Now, the mask feature is a pretty powerful feature in Photoshop. I'm going to reset. Oops. And what that allows me to do, oops, whoa, that's not what I wanted to do. Okay, what this allows me to do is add a solid color mask to an image. The solid color can be changed using black or white to add or subtract. Okay, that sounds really confusing. I understand. I'm going to show you what this looks like. Don't get super hung up on this and worried. We will go through a lot about this later on, but I do think it's cool. So, for example, I'm going to click on the little cardboard, and then I'm going to come and click on that icon. Okay, now what you're going to see is that this has created a mask. Okay, think about a mask as being like if I covered everything up with whiteout or something like that. Okay, you see there's like this little chain here, and that chain, what that's going to show me, this one right here, is that these two icons are linked. Okay, so it's invisible. You can't actually see anything when it's on here. But this tells me, the white tells me that everything on this layer is visible. Okay. If it were to be black, I would see nothing. Okay. Think about white and black with the mask as being like if I turn the lights on, right? I see everything. If I turn the lights off, bloop, you can't see anything. Right. And so that's kind of how this functions. And I'll show you how it works even further when I come back to this. Hold on. Oops. All right. So if I click on the little white icon and I use my paintbrush, okay, you're going to see now that this has black and white. Now if I paint on this, you see it goes away. Okay, now what you can see over on this side, and again, this is probably more information than you guys need to know, but I think it's a super powerful tool. You can see now where that area of black is, it's blocking out. Again, black hides, white shows. Okay, and so as I come on this and change it, if I switch the color, oops, now I can paint that back in. Okay, if I click X, I can paint it away. If I click X, switch the color, I can paint it back. So you might be asking, like, why does this matter? What is this useful for? And that's a good question. It's used for overlays, it's used for effects. For example, if I were to add an adjustment, and this is more information than you need to know right now, but I'm just going to talk about it anyway because I am a nerd. So I'm going to come in here and click adjustments. You don't know what any of this means probably, and that's fine. Let's say I wanted to change this color. Okay, but maybe I didn't want to change the whole thing. You'll see that this adjustment has a mask. So now if I use that black color and I paint it away, you can see that adds the ability for me to change something. So again, if I come in here and maybe I want to make it more vibrant, okay, or maybe I want to make it desaturated, which is less color. And maybe I just want to take a little bit here and say, hi. See how that works? Again, nothing is actually changed to this image. It's just allowing me to change what's there. And again, if I wanted to paint some of that away, I can. If I want to bring it back, I can. So again, this mask feature is super powerful. It can be confusing. Okay, so I'll just say super, super powerful tool. We will talk about this later in